Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today is a Broadmatch show, which means the boy wonder is back. Adam Heist, he's joining us in a moment. So today we're going to go over a number of things. Normally we do more on the personal level, but this one we thought we'd throw in some other stuff. I'm going to be doing some shared screen. We're going to be talking about traffic, analytics, and stuff like that. So we might throw in a little bit of personal stuff here and there. But for now, we're going to be going through a lot more tactical stuff. And I want to show you some certain things that some of you guys maybe should be using on your own website, which are not being currently used at this time. So here he is. How you doing, Adam?
Yeah, great, man. Good to be back.
Yes, indeed. When was the last time? We've done one about 5 weeks ago, isn't it?
It feels like less than that, but time
Yeah.
is such a, time's folding on itself. It seems like I can't believe we're already in August. So yeah, who knows? It could have been 5 weeks ago. Felt like 2 weeks ago.
Indeed. All right. So you've got a list of things you want to go through as well. Do you want to kick us off? Focused areas for the rest of 2024.
Yeah, we can maybe pepper them in throughout the show. So
Mm.
I guess for context, I would call it a somewhat mature existing brand that's focused on Amazon. I've got the new kids bike brand. I've got another brand in the deodorant space that we're looking at buying and have kind of been assessing that for 6 months. But probably the most exciting thing for me professionally here over, I'd say the last 6 or so months, I've been involved with consulting with a company that's just about 9 figures. So, and I'm honestly doing very similar stuff across all of the different businesses, and we'll talk about all of them on the show. But, Danny, I've loved your series with Sim and kind of getting into A/B testing. I think it was a theme that emerged in Seller Sessions Live as well, and it's absolutely been a core focus for us. Saying it straight up, I think that image testing, A/B testing, conversion rate optimization is the next frontier for most, I would say, mid to, people that are in the Amazon game already, have an existing catalog with some winners,
Mm.
know how to launch products, have their operations dialed, don't stock out,
Mm.
know how to do pay-per-click. I think that stuff, it becomes maintenance mode. You're just basically farming and cutting the grass at that point. I think the new hay, so to speak, the new territory is going to be image optimization. So
Yeah.
that is a huge focus for us. So I'm currently vetting agencies. We're looking at hiring full-time 3D renderers, like
Mm.
getting a playbook and a process together where all the time, any ASIN that matters in any one of my catalogs, we're doing A/B testing on. So
Yeah.
that's a huge focus.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the point, we've discussed this. I've just put together a new show that we're going to be doing. It's called Main Image Monthly, the Teardown. And
Love it.
so what I've done is I brought in John Aspinall from PickFu. I brought the duo over from Product Opinion. And I brought in Sim Mahone. Like, these are the residents. And then we'll
Yeah.
use our pairwise system that I've got a data build. And the idea is we take someone's ASIN, doesn't matter who it is, and we'll do a complete teardown. So John might be running stuff in the background on Canva. He might be doing heat mapping tests. The boys are doing over at Product Opinion are doing in-search tests as well. Maybe some video recordings of customer objections to get back from that. I'll run it through our platform, which is a pairwise system, which takes the top 10 search results on the given keyword, and then we spin in that product and see how that compares to the rest of them. And the two ideas is basically getting the first click on this. So an idea from this, your goal out of this is, should you be spending money on that keyword for that product before optimizing it? Do you have any chance of ranking in the top 10 on that keyword? Because most people operate off a crystal ball. Okay. They'll
Yeah.
select a product and they go, okay, these are the keywords I'm going to rank on. Go and blast 30 grand or whatever it is. And then they'll switch around the keywords. They might go and get some gift keywords because they like the idea of a third of the conversion rate,
Yeah.
but triple the costs, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is piece all these elements together, because there's a big objection against customer objections, because there's no sex and sizzle. They find it fucking boring. They think it's expensive when it's not. They complain about the traffic sources and da-da-da-da. The problem is, if it's just your latent narcissism to say, I know my market, I know what I'm doing, therefore it works, isn't always going to cut it, because there's going to become times when it doesn't. So what we're trying to do is we want to teach people how to test for shit properly, inexpensively, right? And test for the right things. Stop chasing dopamine, because
Yeah.
it's tough out there for a lot of people. So That show will be airing on, when is it? 13th of August, and we'll go monthly. You'll be a guest on there as well. So we'll have some rotation of guests. We have the residents, and then we've got 3 technologies running tests on the same product from different angles, and they all come around the table, and we break down the data and what we would do to make the improvements. And that way,
Yeah.
it gives people full scale, full circumference of testing, whether it's images, customer objections, etc., etc.
Love it, man. Yeah. And I think like for me, I think that people are starting to understand that it's a thing that they should be doing, but it's one of those, if you don't have a cadence with it, if you don't know exactly what to implement, who to use, what to test, what to tweak, it just becomes number 19 on your to-do list and you never get to it.
Yeah,
I think what we're going to learn here over the next 6 months with this show, as people start to kind of navigate it, A, it's not as hard as you think it is once you get kind of a
yeah,
cadence with it. And B, it's one of the more effective things you could ever do. You know, I mean, you can optimize pay-per-click, which is obviously there's a lot of money spent there, but literally changing your main image and doing A/B testing and then improving your conversion rate, click-through rate. I can't think of anything more consequential than, I guess, selecting the right product and getting efficient operations than that. So,
yeah.
man, pumped you took the initiative. I think it's one of the future things that most Amazon sellers will be focused on here over the next year, and it's cool to have a venue for people to learn and absorb from the masters at it. So,
Yeah, I
excited
think
about
so.
that
I
show.
think by bringing him, and obviously, I've explained to the boys as well. Look, this isn't a product placement program that you can show off your tools. This is for sellers to win. You're serving your community here,
Yeah,
because I think it's important because we have had decade. You know, I've been in the game nearly a decade now, and we don't test properly. Everyone knows the name of Russell Brunson, but they don't know Pete Larger, which is the godfather of conversion optimization. And that's a fucking shame, right? And there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with what the other guy does, but it's all templates and hacks and do this and do that. And at the end of the day, the world runs dry at some point, and maybe you get lucky on a few hacks. But
yeah,
what you don't get lucky with is testing properly. Once you test properly, and you understand the structure of it and you're willing to go through the pain and do those steps, there's an upside and there's a downside to customer objections. The upside is find your customer objections and then you fix them. You're going to be on top of the world because all your hacks, external traffic, all the other bullshit will work much better, right? The downside of it is you might find that your product, respectfully, is a piece of shit, not fit for market, unfortunately. But then you ain't going to waste another 6 months of your life. And why is this important? Because money isn't the most important thing. Your time and attention is the most important thing. Let
yeah,
me explain that why for the people that don't understand. In order to earn money, you need to put and allocate your time and attention to it. And I'm not talking about lottery winners. I'm just talking about the other 99.9% of people. So it's where you put your time and energy. And I think we're at a time where we must be clear of where we put our time and energy. And if you have to get rid of that product, right, you just saved yourself 6 months.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
time
And I
back.
think,
You learn from that. And we learn through pain. I like to learn through the hard way most of the time.
yeah, most
But
of
then
us
I
do.
stop putting my finger in the plug socket. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
No, I think one thing I've thought a lot about too, and it's like, let's say you've got a couple dead ASINs in your catalog, and for whatever reason you've had them for 6 years. There's 4,000 reviews. Like, there's a lot of reasons why we hang on to things emotionally, even if it doesn't make a lot of logical sense.
mm,
It's not like you're working on them that much, or your team's, maybe it's an hour a week or whatever else. So I think time is one element, Danny, but I think the other one is mental real estate.
yeah,
When you go to bed at night,
mm,
it enters your thought pattern.
yeah,
When you're in the day, it enters. So it's not that you're, you know, rubber hits the road working 4 hours on a product that's dead every
mm,
single week, but you're probably thinking about it for 4 hours, or it's
mm,
entering your mind frame. So I think for me, it's about freeing up mental real estate for the stuff that matters and making sure that you give all of your energy and attention to the stuff that does matter.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
100% agree with you on that.
So, well, some of the experiments before I move in, because I want to go over Microsoft Clarity, I'll do a
Yeah.
shared screen with that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about is it Levento influencers? What's the
Yeah.
tool?
So I think Amazon's deduced over the years primarily to organic ranking and Amazon pay-per-click.
Mm,
I think that there was a whole bunch of stuff we used to do for ranking and whatever else, but it's kind of gone back to its roots, and it's, you know, it's that two-way kind of traffic street, which is obviously all within Amazon's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So across brands, I've been kind of looking at different things to test. I've always been testing other traffic sources, but one that's interesting is Levanta, which is kind of a platform that you can find influencers. It's basically pay per kill model. So if they convert, you pay them a commission. Um, too early to kind of deep dive on it yet, but really early results quite encouraging on that. So it's basically a scaled way to use influencers for Amazon. The second, which I've been doing for 4+ years, is Google Ads, but really kind of dialing it in. You know, I've talked about PixelMe a number of times. There's a lot of ways to run Google Ads, but really been diving into their platform and using that to across different things. One is to kind of revive old products, one's to maintain winners, and the third is to launch.
Yeah.
And so across all those case studies, kind of continue to work that stuff. The one I'm probably most excited about, maybe because it's just the shiny toy in the box right now, is DSP. So my history with DSP, when I worked for a large company that was before I got into the entrepreneurial stuff, you know, this is 7-ish years ago, we had access to DSP through 1P, had to spend $50,000 a month. There's a lot of gates, let's call it, to get into it. And then it was inaccessible for a long time until I think that the first time I remember DSP being available to sellers is through Perpetua. And this is maybe 3 years ago.
Right.
But of course, the fees were really high anyway. So long story long, I've never done DSP. We're about to deploy DSP here in the next couple of weeks for a larger brand, spending a pretty significant sum. I'm just curious to give it a crack. You know, you hear a lot of agencies talk about it. It's very much so, I think, a big boy game, so to speak. So it's larger brands that have omni-channel that can really leverage retargeting. But there's kind of 3 core areas I'm quite interested in testing. One is the retargeting. So imagine somebody goes to your page, adds to cart. There's all kinds of audiences you can set up, and they're on CNN or Fox looking at election stuff. Your product could pop up there. So it follows an Amazon shopper across the internet, and you can use that display network for retargeting.
Yeah.
That's the low-hanging fruit. I think it'll probably be about a third of the spend / results for DSP. The ones I'm super excited about are, one, you can target if somebody's gone to a competitor listing and either visit or added to cart, you can follow them around the internet. So if they haven't converted on, say, 3 of your top competitors, you could throw those audiences in. I'm really kind of curious to test that. And then the final frontier, which is obviously the most opaque, which is people that have certain characteristics, either as a buyer type or as a behavior on the internet, that you can then target.
Yeah.
And so that's where you're kind of way top of funnel. It's not high buying intent people that are typing in a keyword looking to buy it, but seeing how we can kind of bring those customers to the party, what that means for the Amazon organic listings. Can we get the ROI to spill out? So anyway, it's a big new frontier for me, and I'll probably know more about it here in the next month or two. Maybe we'll do a deep dive when I've got some more experience with it. But DSP is probably the last peg that I'm excited about testing.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you've got everything dialed in and DSP is something you have a punt and it works, then fantastic. It's not going to work for everyone, as I mentioned off call as well. You need at least 10 grand a month in ad spend in order for the learning algorithm to really get the benefits at the top end of it. I know that people can go with lower budgets, but I think you end up over the long term, worse off in terms of getting lower yield. So I think the sweet spot's around 10 grand a month or thereabouts. You know, it may have changed now, it may have got more sophisticated, but
and I look at that traffic stack as like, if you're really dialed on all those other things, operations, you got pay-per-click dialed, you got organic rank, like this is not something that you just add as a seller. Like, okay, I'm doing 30 grand a month. I want to get to 80 grand a month. I'm going to throw DSP in. Like, there's way more things you can be doing. For me, this is for a more mature brand that we've kind of squeezed the sponge on a lot of different areas. And this is kind of a frontier that's yet to be tapped. And we're going to be doing it at scale, which I think, to your point, you kind of need to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll share those results as they come out for people that are kind of in that more mature curve, intermediate plus sellers. It might be of interest. So
cool. So yeah, what I want to talk about is one of the key aspects today. I'm redoing the seller session site because we're building our own ticketing platform to move away from Eventbrite because of the limitations, the costs and stuff. But this will really benefit sellers on a number of levels of what we're going to discuss here, because the value of the traffic, what is good traffic versus valuable traffic versus kind of vanity traffic as well. So I'm going to talk about Microsoft Clarity. A lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people use Google Analytics. It integrates with that as well. But this is a software that's free. And basically, years ago, I would have to use Crazy Egg for heat mapping. Then I'd have scroll depth tracking, which would be some JavaScript programming, which would then basically be tracked in Google Analytics. And then for click recordings to understand the customer path and any of the issues with the site, different rendering on different render validations on different operating systems and adjustments that would need to be made. You'd be able to see that and some of the other issues where things should be placed on a software. I think it was called Mouseflow, and then you'd have to keep buying up credits for it. Whereas with this, I'll bring it up on screen now. So this is Microsoft Clarity. Okay, let me just see if I can make that a bit larger on the screen. Take us off, Adam. I'll make that a circle one. Oh, let's put that back on. Let me open it up a bit. All right, that's a bit better. It's just because it takes up so much real estate on it. So basically, this is Seller Sessions site now. Now, what simplifies it is Google Analytics. I know it's changed recently, but it can be overwhelming for a lot of people, and it's not always intuitive to the data that you want, right? So you can see the sessions here. You can see that they've also excluded 190 bot sessions as well. Page sessions, which is low, which I'll go into at the moment. Then the scroll depth and active time versus time on page. So 1.7, but again, this has been diluted down because of a situation with the way certain articles have been targeted based on keywords, right? So it drags down the overall average of the metrics on the site. So the other part here, you've got rage clicks, okay? You've got dead clicks, excessive scrolling, quick back. So that's if you've got a form and it jumps back. Rage clicks is if someone's like really clicking hard on the page, like frustrated with something, maybe they're trying to close a modal box, etc. Dead clicks is where someone could be clicking on the page where they think it should be something that takes them somewhere else. So you can identify problems in your landing pages and stuff like that, or place other content there to make it work. You've got a watch list. So you've got different things like smart events, submit a form, and then all your devices and stuff. So it's pretty straightforward, okay? So, for instance, one of the problems that we've been facing with this is not all traffic is created equally. So we've got some articles that would like get 2,000 views a month, which dilutes everything because the way that the articles were targeted was low-hanging fruit to rank on that article, which is still related to Amazon. But then when it folds back, there's no real monetary value, which I'll get to at the moment. So if I was to go through, let's look at this article here, just go through to this, and then I can use the recordings or the heat map. So let's have a look at the recordings in this case. So here's all the recordings. I can see this one's Australia PC, United Kingdom PC, Austria. So there's all the recordings. I can sit there and watch all these recordings one by one. I can skip inactivity. I can do multi-speed. Something went wrong on that one, so let's click on the next one. Let's go down to the next one. There you go. So this is on the mobile device. And then basically that's come off page. Some of these recordings have got errors. Might be a JavaScript thing I need to check. Here we go. That's starting to work now. So you get an idea of how they're scrolling. This here is, there's some masking settings I need to change, but you see the images come up on the screen. But this gives you an idea of them scrolling and how they're interacting with the page. It might be a landing page where they may be clicking on the purchase button, etc., but it's not working on some different browsers, or an issue with operating system. Sorry. So you can diagnose some problems that way by watching some of this. Now, the other thing that you can do, you've got tap. So basically how many times you've been tapped on the screen. So this will show you clicks. You can scroll down. For some reason, there's 3 clicks there, or there's 8 clicks there. This one has got 24. So you'd have to work out, why are people clicking it? It doesn't really make sense. Now, people use their fingers and thumbs to go up and down the page, or they might, some people, depending on how they hold their phone, they might hold their thumb down. I need to investigate on why there's so many on this point here. It might be, actually, no, this is the ranking. Apologies. This is the rankings, and these the amount of clicks. So this is in second place because it's got 9 clicks. This one here is in first place, is 10 clicks. That's what it is, yeah. So basically, you may be able to go through, you can see information on clicks, taps. Obviously here we're going to be the scroll depth. Now, when you get lower down, for obvious reasons, it's going to change color as it gets towards the bottom. So you can see where the percentage of users have reached reading this article. Now, why would this be useful on something like this? I mean, if it's a content page like this where nothing's been sold on, it gives you an idea of where the people are bouncing, or if the article is too long, or there's something where you might want to embed a link to take them to another article, or you want to determine just generally overall how long should the pages be, because on some pages, although you've got an infinite scroll, some pages should have pagination to get through to the next page, to the next page. Or you're trying to work out how long should my pages be on the page, on the site, i.e. an article. Are you going to do long form articles at 3,000, or do you want them 1,500 or 1,000, etc.? You can start to extrapolate information from there. This one is area of where the clicks have taken place, and it'll give you the click-through rates of those as well. What else is there to show you? We've done heat maps. Oh yeah, and so with the Google Analytics here, so this looks like Google Analytics as it should, but let's say you want to go through to the additional information where this is both tied in. I might want to go mobile, and I may want to go to the heat maps filter to mobile, which the heat maps are snapshots, and with the recordings, it doesn't mean they record every visitor, but it allows you to have a mixture of both in here. So I find it really useful for working out what issues that we have with the site, and then giving us the ability to fix those issues. But coming back round to my point, why this is important as well. If you're a seller that's got your own site and you know how much it costs to drive external traffic to your site, your site is going to be a leaky bucket, and you can't fix what you can't see. Let me just come back on. Okay, so you can't basically fix what you can't see. So having something like Clarity, again, it's free. I think it depends if you're up, 20, 30, 40,000 users a month on the site, it might go into a stage where you are charged for it. But I found it very, very useful on determining a few things. So I wanted to see and work out the value of this traffic. One second, I want to bring Adam back on as well, so it's not just just him sitting in there in the background. So I'm talking just to the screen. Yeah, so the reason I've just shown you all that, one, is something that you can jump on. It's free. You can use on your own website, right? But most importantly is determining the value of some of the things with the traffic. Now, another thing that you can do to run these tests. So what I did was, I'm like, okay, what is the value of this traffic coming from some of these articles, right, that we've done, that have been targeted in order as low-hanging fruit to get visitors to the site, but they're not doing anything other than reading the article. Where is the value in that, right? So what we did was we did a multi-step, what's called a process form. So instead of the normal form where you go name, email, submit, job done, it's asking a set of questions, because a couple of things also was happening. When you're built on WordPress, you get a shit ton of spam, and yes, you can use captures, but captures tend to bring down the conversion rate overall, right? Yep. And people don't like them. They can be a bit fiddly as well. And a lot of the time people find a workaround, and they work for 3 months, and then you're back to having spam again. Whereas with the step ones, you're able to put pertinent information. So obviously you've got the agency. So we asked 3 questions and that will give us an indicator of where they are and the problems that they're facing. We also ask them what band they are in terms of price band, meaning do you turn over less than 500,000, more than 500,000, or more than 1 million? So that I've got multiple buckets there. I understand, well, I know at my agency, we can't take on anyone doing less than say 1 million or 900,000. And part of that is we could take them on, but I don't believe in taking money off a seller that's doing less than 1 million when they should be spending that on inventory and doing that in-house. Until you get to 1 million, I don't think you should be using an agency.
The math doesn't make sense.
The math does not make sense. I've heard people, and I'm not going to, make a thing of it, but people come to me and go, I say, how do you make the numbers work? Like they're charging you $3,000 a month plus a percentage of ad spend, and you're turning over 40 grand a month. How the fuck does those numbers work? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So but I want to grow. I said, no, you've just been sold down the fucking river. Go and get yourself a consultant. Anyway, I'm going off track. Let's get back on track. The whole point of it is, let's look at the value of this traffic, right? How many people are going to complete this form? Because bear in mind, I've removed all the other forms from the site. So the only way you can get in contact with us is through that form. And yes, it's a bit fucking annoying because you got to click and get rid of it. But it's only as a short-term example of looking where is the value in this traffic. And so when we looked at it, everyone who completed that form was turning over less than 500,000. So that says to me, over that few week period, one, we got rid of spam. Two, we got a generalized view of where people are in their Amazon journey. Now, I'm not saying don't listen to the podcast. I'm not saying don't engage with all the content. That's not the discussion. The reason I tested it, I wanted to see, is this a viable traffic source that generates revenue, or if these articles, some of these articles, more lean into a vanity metrics to show you a higher amount of users appearing on the site, but your engagement end up goes down when you spread it across the averages. Does that make sense? So now that you might say, well, okay, what about your conference? Because the whole idea of redoing the site is to, next step is the ticketing platform, because I spend thousands in swallowing fees for Eventbrite. So you could say, well, will those people also buy tickets for seller sessions? They may not, right? They may, because they're doing less than 500,000. Again, do you want to spend £300 for a ticket? Now, I'm on the low end tier of costs for conference tickets. So we're the low end premium, if you like. Let me break it down. You've got your free meetup, right? You got your free meetup. You got your meetups that cost you 50 quid. And then you've got the bottom tier of costing. So there are people that doing 1 million that wouldn't spend £300 on a ticket for a conference because it's too expensive. So our lowest price is $299 and it has been since 2019, right? Our highest price is $399 on conference. Obviously, other tickets might cost more for like workshops and stuff. So they might fit into that bandwidth, or they may not. And then you go, well, what's the next tier down? Do you have a service, some people around that 100, 200? So that's the software area. That's the reoccurring revenue for using third party, which is, again, what I don't use. So what it is, it's a great lesson which I want to share with people, is that you want to be targeting the main traffic that you want to target is the most relevant to you. Like what I do with the podcast, I hope to believe, and still the same, is that it is attractive to 7-8 figure sellers and people aspiring to become 7-8 figure sellers. So everything I do is focused in and around that 1% area, because most 7-figure sellers are in the 1%, right? So I do a conference. Who's it aimed at? 7-8 figure sellers. I go and do workshops. Who's it aimed at? 7-8 figure sellers. I do a podcast, the content. Who's it aimed at? We don't do, like the basic stuff and welcome to Amazon stuff. It's all trying to do the most advanced stuff where possible within reason that you can do in a podcast format. What about the agency? Well, it's for 7-8 figure sellers. So it's about how you focus in stuff, because this is where waste can come in. External traffic, vanity traffic in most cases. Most people will tell you I feel like it works, but I can't prove it. And they can't prove it. And none of it's in the literature. I think only spearfishing and a couple other things where Amazon picks up on it. But then it goes back to the cold start, which people used to call the honeymoon period, or some people still call it that now. But it comes a time where you've got to go, right, I must get dialed in, because it's not about the volume, it's about the focus. Because you can have a smaller amount of numbers because you're targeting a smaller area. So I think it's really important of what are you trying to achieve. And I think that's a great lesson in that. But the other thing I want to talk about quickly on that, whilst getting into the development on that, is when you are, or if you're building a website for your own products now, start with a checkout page. Start with the concept of what you want to achieve, and then spend a lot of time building the checkout page. Yeah, because a lot of people start with a design and how they're going to map out the site, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what's the most important part of the website? It's the checkout page. And people get exhausted by the time they've gone through revisions of design and all these beautiful avatars and everything that they're doing and working out content for all these different pages. They go, fucking hell, just stick anything in there. I'm done. I've done like going back and doing all the iterations. Yeah. But start with the checkout page. So let me just want to see if I've got some of my notes here. So the reason I wanted to build it. So let's start with the reason with why would you go away from a world-renowned system like Eventbrite? Not just because you're paying thousands, and I mean literally thousands in fees, right? That's not what it is. And I eat it. It doesn't go to the customer 9 times out of 10. Sometimes we've had times where we might have done plus fees when we get to the point when we've sold out, and then we get refunds on the tickets, and then they get repatched out there. They might be plus fees every so often, but generally we eat them. But the key thing for me was it has so many different limitations, and I want the experience to be better. So for instance, I want to be able to, someone to come to the site, be able to pick up a conference ticket, and as they put it into their car, you know, like an alert or a bubble comes up, you know, a little bit of screen validation where it says, you know, would you like to buy a VIP dinner ticket? We'll knock off X, Y, and Z. Yeah. So you can in that moment capture them purchasing the ticket and see if they want to have a VIP dinner, or it could be for a workshop. And so it's a bit more integrated and smooth without breaking that path of going through checkout. Because obviously if between 75% bounce on desktop and then 75 on desktop, I think it's 86 on mobile bounce, you've got to be very careful when you're cross-selling, or being deemed that you're overselling, right? So having something that's a bit more nuanced in, hey, do you want to buy one of these as well? If not, no pressure kind of thing. But it's the visual ad that we display that, right? And I want to be able to offer the tickets to pay off in installments. Let's say that your seller, a lot of sellers are having it hard out there on margin. So cash flow is king, but they may want to come to the event and they may go, do you know what? I want a conference ticket. I want to go to the dinner and I want to go to the workshop, but I don't have all the funds available cash on hand at the moment because I've got to buy X, Y, and Z. I'll split it over 5 payments. So I want to have the options to do that as well. Cool. I also like to add the option of multi-currency. So people in the US, because the thing is with VAT, you can't escape that. And I'm saying this from the point of supporting it, doing it all correctly. But it really depends on the nuance of it. Like, for instance, if you buy a ticket in the UK from a UK site to go to a UK event, there is VAT on it. What I want to do is get opinions and check from numerous places, not just from one source. What if you're buying in US dollars from the US? Does it still apply? Would they still need to apply the VAT? And what about people in France and places like that have 0 rated? How do we do that? Do we force them into paying VAT? So I want to try and solve that problem as well, giving people the options for that. The other thing which Eventbrite is terrible at is the fact that if you were to go on the site, Adam, and buy a ticket in your name, but you bought your ticket someone else's ticket and someone else's ticket, they're all in your name.
Yeah.
Then what we have to do, we have to run a spreadsheet, like a guest list, contact you, or Kerry contacts you and says, hey, who are the other two people? And it's very, very common that whether it's a brand themselves or whatever, their team member will go in and buy the group tickets who's not even attended. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So we've built like a big, big hit list for it. So the key things to remember on your checkout page is simplified process, right? It's having that, it's got to be super clean, right? And it can be very hard to do because you need to get as many elements in there as possible because you want to get your upsells, your cross sells, or whatever way you want to play it, but you also don't want it to be cluttered, right? So that's streamlined. Things like having guest checkout rather than forcing to do the account, like an account setup, especially if someone's using something like PayPal as a payment. They don't need to sign up. They use PayPal for the payment, so your address and everything's related, right? It's different when it comes to card details, but it doesn't mean you always have to have them in a membership program, if you like, in order to sign up, log in to buy a ticket. Trust signals, so security badges, trust seals, what's the word I'm looking for? The certificate thing, the security certificate, SSL.
Yeah. SSL.
Yeah, things like that. Having trust logos on there. Of course, multiple payment options. Your PayPal, your Google Pay, your credit cards, etc., etc. What else is there you need to put on there? Is if you're going to do stepped checkout, make it clear they are in steps, okay? Because that's going to help reduce abandonment, like cart abandonment. Implementing auto address entry, so they haven't got to sit there and complete all the addresses. Especially, this comes useful if you want to add fields for ticket number 2. Autofill is going to be very, very useful for multiple tickets because some people go, sod this, I'm out, or they just put junk information in there just to get through that process, or they don't have the person's information on hand. So autofill is definitely something that's got to be added. If you, obviously tickets are different because they're not physical, but implementing an auto ship option. Then there's also setting the clear expectations. Okay, so transparency and costs. Now, this wouldn't relate to these tickets, for instance, or it could do. Let me give you an example. Let's pretend we wanted to add VAT and fees on at the end. You don't want to see that at the end, right? Because what's happening is, say you're buying a ticket and it's showing it as net on there, and then you add all those fees at the end. It turns people's stomach to pay.
You're ticket master. You're the evil ticket master at that
Exactly. Point. That's another thing you want to avoid. So always make sure that all your costs are there and they're not hidden to the last page on checkout because you'll get a high bounce. What else was there I wanted to cover on that? There's a couple other things that I've missed out on. Yeah. Make sure in your validation fields that it's clear in there in terms of what you're expecting of them to complete that information, like first name, last. I know it sounds really stupid, but really work hard on your validation fields to make sure you've got the right language in there to complete, because if you have errors in the field, stuff like email address, an incomplete email address, make sure that the logic says an @ sign. It must have a dot as well, a dot and an @ as a minimum, because then obviously they can track that to make sure that's the correct email address. Not because you're collecting information, but you've got to send that person the ticket. Yeah. So I think I kind of covered quite a lot there. But yeah, what you got to do is work out the concept of what do you want to achieve from the site and put your biggest effort into building the checkout first and then everything else. And I know it's counterintuitive. I only say it's because you're exhausted by the time you get to the checkout.
Yeah, no,
right? Because you've done all the other work instead.
Yeah. A couple of things there, Danny. First of all, that Microsoft Clarity, and you showed it to me yesterday. It's incredibly slick and impressive. Yeah. So I think anybody that's got a website, it's a snippet of code, throw it in there. How deep you decide to dive on it, it's up to you.
Yeah.
For Amazon sellers specifically, for me, I look at it in terms of 2 lenses. One is, are you running paid traffic, or 2, do you just kind of have a home-based website?
Yeah.
I think most sellers will fall on the home-based website, but they probably have no idea how many people visit, where they go, etc. One thing that we found, because I've never made a hard push on Shopify for most of my stuff, is the biggest value of a website for us is diverting negative reviews.
Right.
Most customers go to your, I shouldn't say most, there's a significant percentage of customers that will go to your site for information on solving their problem that they're having with the product
Yeah.
and or to communicate with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so at a minimum, that could be your checkout if you're, hey, look, I'm not getting into meta ads. I'm not doing a whole bunch of paid traffic yet. How do you, where are customers going, number one? And I think clarity helps you get there. Number two, your checkout page might be, I want to reduce the number of negative reviews, or I know that a significant percentage of customers that buy this product have this issue. Here's the information I can provide to them, whether it's a video, PDF, way to contact us. I think that's the first wave. And then I think as you get more mature and you're like, look, I'm kind of sick of all my bags or all my eggs in the Amazon basket, I'm going to start driving traffic. That's when it's like, okay, now you got to put your D2C shoes on and be really, really thoughtful about conversion rate. But I think folks would would misunderstand how much traffic they get, even if they're not pushing paid traffic, because there's a lot of customer service, call it negative review aversion traffic that exists on your site, and Clarity can expose that.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything else? There's logic cost optimization. And did you want to have a quick chat? You sent me a massive all data category file.
Yeah.
Did you want? We won't go into it. Do you want to just touch on it today?
Maybe just touch on that one. So
yeah,
I want to say, I'm trying to think of the timeline now. It's probably 4 years ago. So there's GDPR in the EU, which is basically consent forms on what data can
absolutely
websites can pull on you.
Yeah.
A lot of US sites have adopted a similar thing, but what happens in the US oftentimes is California drives because there's such a massive population center in California. If they have a rule, it basically is a federal rule. Like, yeah, it's only for the state, but if you're online, you're not going to create a separate website. Typically, most people wouldn't, just for people visiting from California.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of product safety rules that have come in, but the big one that came out was, much like the EU, as a consumer in the US, you can request any website provide to you any data that is housed on you. So 4 years ago, I did this. I'm like, you know what? I've been on Amazon since 2009 as a buyer. Like, what the hell do they have on me? And this is right around the time when the rebate game was how you launch products. And I just never felt right about it, never liked it. I started having this theory about, hey, like, no one really drives external traffic. So I started using Google Ads and stuff, and I started seeing rank improving, but it was all qualitative. So I pulled the data on myself, and the big so what there was, since 2009, every search I've done, every click, every device, every IP address, every add to cart, everything I purchased, all of that is housed, which I think is not unsurprising, but when you see it for your own buyer account, it's kind of startling a little bit. But what was interesting about that, or the so what, was at that time they had started to track external traffic. So did the source click come from external traffic, yes or no? Did it come from a paid ad? The thesis that I kind of generated at that time was, hey, they're giving you reward for external traffic. I was seeing that, but it was nice to see the data footprint. So it was, I want to say about a month ago, I'm like, you know what? I haven't done that in a long time. I wonder what they house now. And this is right around the time of when I was talking with Vanessa about Cosmo. We've kind of started to see that they're getting much more about serving up organic SERP based on customers' profiles and behaviors.
Yeah.
So I haven't looked through it. I literally just sent it to Danny just before this, because it takes a couple days for them to pull the data, but I've got my data now. I can't remember how many. It's 300 megs of data. It's something like 30 or 40 folders, but it's got things now like customer attributes, customer avatar. It'll obviously have a bunch of stuff on search. So I literally haven't dug into it yet, but I think we'll do a separate pod, Danny, on kind of pulling the onion back. Because I think especially for people that are based outside of the US and can't pull this themselves, it will be very illuminating. And I think it will give, similar to 4 years ago, won't give all the answers because you're never going to get it, the algorithm all laid out for you, but it will give you a footprint of the data that Amazon at least is housing, and we can make some inferences on how they're using it and how that can impact us as Amazon sellers.
Yeah. I mean, it's got everything from your Audible account history as well, like purchases and stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, I've got everything I can blackmail you on now.
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
go through. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
Hopefully
crazy.
there's not any embarrassing searches on there. I think I've been keeping it pretty clean by shopping on Amazon, but if there's
You'll
butt
be,
plugs or something in there, it wasn't me. It was somebody else on my computer.
yeah, no, you'll be fine. Look, Whole Foods. There's so much. I'm just flicking through the list now. I mean, I think it's a good
Yeah.
exercise for everyone to download for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a look through Amazon Drive, Amazon Music, App Store, in-app purchases. It's everything in it.
Yeah, I think the one last time there was a massive spreadsheet that was basically the search. Like, so I
Right.
think that's probably the one that we'll have. I'm just curious to see if they've added any more columns. But what was interesting there is like there's customer attributes. So like for me, for whatever reason, they don't have gender, but so they have not applicable for gender, but they've got a consumer profile that obviously they're using to track you across the internet for things like DSP. I'm sure ads, how they serve up organic rank.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I've just pulled it up now. Apps, PC browsing, desktop, search type, keyword, visual browse. There's loads of stuff here. I'll have a dig through as well.
Yeah. They've got
Yeah,
things like shopping profiles too, so it shows the different shopping profiles that I have personally. So
yeah,
yeah, I think it's going to be pretty fascinating stuff. I'm
yeah.
really
So
excited to.
first search query string. So
Yep,
that, okay. So there's tracking the behavior, of course, right? So that's
yep.
obviously going to be key. All the
It's
keywords
got
you've searched on. Yeah.
yeah.
So there's going to be a
How
load of
many?
stuff when you're searching for products, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm looking at some of these keywords and it looks like this is someone who sells on Amazon who's currently doing some research for products.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. No, I'll go through it now. It doesn't look like, your everyday searches.
Yeah, that's probably all over the place.
Yeah. And that takes back the whole of your history that we've got here.
I don't know if this one does. The one that I pulled 4 years ago went back to the first time I ever shopped from my Amazon account, which was 2009. I'm assuming it's similar this time,
Hmm.
but we'll have to dig in. It's a lot more fragmented, the data. Like before, they did have like the Amazon app stuff, Amazon Prime. It was kind of Audible, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Alexa was one of them. And then there was like a retail one. Now there's literally like, if I look at retail, it's search data, it's my feedback, how much
This
I've
is great.
actually
Listen,
returned.
Adam, look,
Yeah.
first browse node,
Yeah.
last search time, last search department,
Yep.
last browse node.
Yep.
So obviously he's looking at the prediction of the behavior that he's tracking from the
Yep.
moment that you conduct that search, because a lot of it is based around the behavior, right?
Yep.
So it's looking at the behavior of where you're going on your search. So the
Yep.
information that they're plotting is just as useful as when you start to where you end up at. Do you understand?
Yep.
And it seems that looking at some of those, I'm going to cross-reference that with some of my A9 stuff, but yeah, this is interesting. Last search, first search, last department, obviously category, and then last and first browse node.
Yep.
There's
And then
definitely
it's even
stuff
got
there.
things like the household. So it's got me as a household. It's got my ex-wife on here. So
Yeah.
it will track who is buying from the household, and it's got like different segments effectively for your household. So yeah, it's they have from when I pulled this 4 years ago, it is way more incremental and it's
Mm,
pretty I would say awe-inspiring to see the amount that they've segmented. I wasn't expecting it to be this detailed.
mm.
So curious, it's going to take me 8 hours to go through all this and see what's the so what, but yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely have a look. Health-wise, as we finish off, anything you want to cover? Any training adjustments? Anything you're doing differently?
Yeah, I mean, it's I've kind of had a really busy couple weeks. I was in BC at a buddy's cabin, and
Mm,
then I was in Banff for some business stuff, and then there was a folk festival here in Calgary this weekend. So
mm,
for me, it's been busy. It's been a busy 10-day stretch. So kind of been off the workout routine. Went to the gym for the first time yesterday. I think we'll talk about it on future episodes. I'm experimenting with peptides, which is kind
mm,
of one of the new, I guess, health innovations, so to speak. That's a little bit on the fringes now, but
mm,
using it as to kind of get stroke stuff done and just
mm.
middle age stuff sorted out. So
Yeah.
I don't have enough material kind of feedback on that yet to talk about it, but there's 3 different peptides I'm testing. I will say it's a pain. They're injection based, so you got to inject them in your stomach. Definitely a pain in the ass. Like
It's a night. There's site injections every day, right? It's sore, so you have
yeah,
to move your site.
three of them. So you get bruises, you get like kind of scar tissue. So that's been a bit of a pain in the butt. But
yeah, I've got two little lumps here where I now move around because I've been on TRT 4 years. So I pin 3 times a week. But when I'll cover some of the peptide stuff I've done in the past, which, like you, if you're doing them daily, sometimes it's two or 3 times a day, depending on
I've got 3. I've got 3 that I do daily. Yeah.
It's brutal, isn't it? Because it starts to get really fucking sore and you're like, I've got to.
I started moving to my ass for the one. Most of them are like really small, but I've got like a 6 count injection that's a little bit bigger. I'm like, I'm moving to my ass because my stomach can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, no, it's annoying. Yeah, I'll cover some of that. I want to talk about semaglutide as well. Cool. Training wise, I've stepped my training up. I'm doing a lot. I mentioned last show, moving to more body mechanics, cardio, and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're looking lean, man.
I've dropped to. I'm about 2-3. When I was at Cellar Sessions, I was like the fat darts player. I was annoyed about that. I fucking looked at myself and I think, Jesus Christ, sort yourself out. So I'm down about 20 pounds, I think. I was probably about 223. So I've dropped a bit of muscle, but I'm getting leaner. I think about 195 is ideal for me. 49 in November.
Yeah, good for you.
I was speaking to Cheryl about getting some fights in next year. She ain't having none of it.
Oh, yeah.
You have to rename them as exhibitions.
Yeah.
But no, I'm enjoying the boxing, enjoying the training, and and obviously because of the ADHD meds as well, food suppression. I can't do 3,000 calories. I'm just not hungry.
Yeah.
So I've made the adjustment. So I've dropped a bit of muscle, lost a lot of, because I'm pretty good at putting muscle on, right? And I'm very good at losing it when I go into a cut. So I end up and down like a seesaw. So I've kind of given up the ghost on it. It's like, why keep doing that to then come back down? If you can't eat to get the food in, and I ain't fucking doing tren and all that dog shit, because that is like dangerous crap. So I've always said on TRT, and then you have to eat your way up, which is not much fun when you don't want to fucking eat all the time. So I'd rather stick where I am. I'll carry on leaning out, and if it means losing a bit of muscle, so be it. But I'll have more flexibility because there's only so much. We discussed this before, right? Your ligaments get old and worn out. Just because you can lift, it doesn't mean that your back won't go, your ligaments won't go, your joints won't go. So I'm focusing more time under tension, more cardio-based stuff. And again, like a lot more of the boxing and making adjustments to the training. I don't do deadlifts anymore, don't do squats anymore, just a complete adjustment to, I'm getting old now, so I need to to understand I'm getting old, so you just have to adjust your training to not get injured.
Yeah, one thing that's been tricky for me since my stroke is like having a mind-body relationship, right? Like understanding and listening to the signals of the body. I've had to refigure that out because I frankly the limits of my new state, so to speak, have been dynamic and shifting, and it's getting better. But it's not like 2 years ago where I knew exactly how hard I could push myself. Was it because I was mentally weak or because my body was giving up? Like I had a pretty good barometer for that.
Yeah.
Since my stroke, I've had to kind of reevaluate that and not really sure what the limits are. But one thing that I've gotten better at, again, I just went and worked out yesterday for the first time in a little over a week, is like, I kind of wasn't feeling great that day. Got in there and I just did 2 sets of 5 on chest. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do like, ease back. I don't need to go kill myself every time. And today doesn't feel like the day I want to do that. So I think listening to that has been one of the skills that I've acquired certainly over the last year that's been really helpful. Like before it would be like, I dedicated this workout on Wednesday to be this, and I'm doing it no matter what, no matter how I feel. And I think it is important to have that discipline and that mental reserve to be able to push through challenges. But there's also like, hey, look, there's no use digging yourself a hole where then you're screwed for the next week and then you have a ligament injury or whatever else. Like, I think there's a balance of listening to your body and pushing yourself and getting that dynamic right is, I think, something that as you age, you have to get better at. And I think that we're both kind of toggling that dance right now.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that's improved is my sleep. I'm notorious for being a meerkat at 4 o'clock awake. Let's go. Let's go, champ. Let's go. And I'll be off to the races. But I've kind of built in It's taken time to get there, but I've got to the stage where when I wake up now, I just stay in bed and then fall back to sleep. And then I'm fucking knackered when I wake up. But then I'm
Yes.
getting the
Yeah.
recovery in because I can't keep trading off 5.5 hours sleep
No.
because
No.
the compound effect. And that's the other thing of training. Like, whilst training is important, so is the recovery. Yeah.
Yes.
And
100%.
I was reading something the other day. It's called, I can't remember, detach from the outcome. So if you look at it like, I wake up every morning and you go, fucking hell, I'm awake again. Next day, next day. You do that 365 days of the year. And you do that for a number of years. What is that? A pattern. So the pattern is like you've got to detach yourself from the outcome. Like, I'm going to stay in bed and I'm going back to sleep. I'm not going to think about sleeping. I'm just going to lay here and eventually I'll fall back to sleep. Yes, I'll be knackered when I wake. So I think part of that has been useful as well, is that it's more woo-woo, I get it. But if you can detach yourself from the outcome on most things, that removes a lot of barriers. And detaching
100%.
from the outcome doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So let's say that you're trying to grow a business. You go, right, I want to get this to 8 figures. You put so much emphasis on the outcome, right? You push it away. It gets further and
Yes.
further and you get frustrated, right?
Yep.
What about if you detach yourself from the outcome, but you do all the work to get there? You focus on this bit. This is the journey. This is the outcome.
Yep.
Take the eye off the outcome of the end result. Focus on the work that gets you there instead. And then if you detach, because I think what happens is the more you're attached to something, the further that thing pushes away. It could be relationships. It could be, do you understand what I'm saying? Is that when
Yep.
that attachment is too deep, it ends up, it moves away from you. So I think learning to detach from the outcome of certain areas when things are not working as you would like them to work, you've got to rethink about what are you going to do. And one of those things is nothing changes on this side of the track, but I'm going to detach from the outcome over there and then see what happens. And I think that's played a role in with the sleep as well, because it's either fuck it, get up and just work, and then never catch up on that time until you burn out and hit a wall, or you go, I'm here now, I'm laying in bed, I ain't fucking getting up, I'm staying here, and I'm going
Yep.
to go back to sleep. And it doesn't matter, I feel like shit when I wake up, I have a coffee and I'm back to the races. But what that means is I've now got 7 hours sleeping. My body started to recover for the next gym session,
Yeah.
because your health is built into sleep, especially as you get older. So that's one of the things I've been experimenting. I would suggest to anyone, if you're not getting what you want, detach from the outcome, but still focus on what you need to do to reach the said outcome.
Yeah, and a big thing for me when you do that too, that I found, is to use an Amazon example. Let's say that you're like, oh, I want to hit 5 million by end of year. And that's, you've been talking about that. You told your team, maybe you told other people about it, and you want that damn screenshot at the end of the year that shows you hit 5 million.
Yeah.
You're so focused on the outcome. I think the challenge is that when you have adversity, it's going to be so much more detrimental to your ability to rule through the punches, because oh shit, now I'm not going to be able to hit 5 million. This thing happened, whatever. Now your world's collapsing around you.
Yeah.
Your kite is, inside wound up. Then you focus, and then you start acting from a place of lack.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I think that the detachment from outcome doesn't mean that I'm less ambitious, less disciplined, etc. Just like when bad stuff happens, it's like, of course, bad stuff's going to happen. Like whatever, I'm rolling with it. Like it doesn't change where I'm going.
Yeah.
And so you're able to roll with the punches a lot more. I find that when you're grasping at stuff, any little thing that differs from how you think things should be going rattles you in such a way that you become absorbed in it, and it's just unsustainable,
Yeah. And then obviously that sets a level of stress. And when you're in a stressful
Yes. Nothing good
environment or
happens.
frame, nothing good happens. And it's very hard for people to be creative in a stressed state. It's the same thing
100%.
when I have clients, I call it the therapy couch. It's very popular in Q4 for a lot of clients. But the first thing I want to do is get their head back in the game. So I want
Yep.
to let them know this is a safe space. Let's calm down, deep breath.
Yep.
Right, this is what we're going to do. If I can fix it, I say, this is what we're going to do. I need you to just relax for a moment. I'll fix this and I'll give you an hour, like 48 hours, 72 hours. And that would normally take the edge off if I can fix it. And then they can start to think more creative about how to solve other problems around it. But I've seen it where it kind of builds. And once you get to that state, that stress state that you don't let go of, nothing good comes out because you can't think, right? And you're not going to have any positive resolution from that other than you want to put a hammer through the computer or you go down the pub and get on the piss. And neither of those are going to fix the problem. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my new mantra: detach from the outcome,
Love it.
carry on doing the work. All right.
Love it.
Should we sign off?
Yeah, man, it was good chatting with you.
You too. And we'll get back together again in 1 month. Yeah, we'll go through some of that data and some of the other bits that you've got there, and I'll run some more tests as well. All right.
Cool.
All right, guys. Thank you again for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the show. You know how to reach the pair of us. If you have any questions, take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll see you again